As those Islamic State brides and their children settle into living in Australia again, the controversy doesn't fade away. Labor plans to bring back 60 women and children who lived in Syria under Islamic State during their reign of terror. Politicians in Western Sydney aren't happy the federal government didn't consult with them before resettling the families. State Labor MP Guy Zangari has taken a shot at his federal counterpart Chris Bowen, his federal colleague, saying, as a Labor Party MP, I would expect my local federal member and the government would consult me with my community, consult with both of them. And Prime Minister Anthony Albanese too is reluctant to take questions on the issue. Here he was over the weekend.
We will consider one and only priority is to keep Australians safe. We're following national security advice on all of those matters and will continue to do so. Thanks very much.
Let's go to the independent federal member for Fowler, Dai Lee, whose electorate includes parts of Fairfield in Sydney's west. Good to talk to you again, Dai. Tell us on this issue how much you know and how much more you want to know.
On this issue, Chris, I don't know much other than what I've heard in the report about the settlement of families, wives and children of ISIS fighters. And I have written to the Home Affairs Minister at the beginning when we heard rumours of the families being resettled to Minister for Home Affairs Claire O'Neill. We haven't received any information yet about what's happening. So I think the whole issue is around the kind of a cloak of secrecy around this repatriation. And for a community like Fowler, where we've got a diverse, multicultural, multi-faith community here, it's very concerning. I suppose my concern is around the tension that it can cause within the community, where many of our residents and families have escaped ISIS states and ISIS regime. So you can imagine the concern and their fears in terms of the triggering of the idea that there are links to ISIS coming back into Australia. So that has been very concerning for me, and obviously disappointed that we've got to this stage whereby we're talking about this. And I would have preferred that there had been a conversation as a federal member here in Fowler, whereby my electorate covers a large. There's a large population in my electorate who are of Chaldean, of Mandaean, of Assyrian and Syrian Christian faith who have escaped the ISIS regime. So as you can appreciate, and I'm sure you've heard our Mayor, Frank Carbone, spoke in your program yesterday, who's very passionate about the issue as well. So we have obviously been left in the dark, not knowing, and we can only speak from what we heard in the media, and we don't want to do that. We would love to have a dialogue around this issue to alleviate the fears in our community. There's been no offer of a meeting from the Home Affairs Minister or officials to give you and council and state leaders some sort of information? Nothing at all, Chris. So, I mean, as the government, they should know that when it comes to an issue like this, it's so sensitive. As I said, one of the most multicultural and multi-faith here
just in the Fowler
electorate.
Just on that, Di, sorry to jump in there, but when you talk about this knowledge and looking after this situation, won't it be those communities themselves that will know these people when they resettle? They'll know who they are and where they are, and those communities then will actually provide the support that they'll desperately need. I mean, what I'm saying is that won't this all have to be out in the open among the community eventually anyway? Well, I don't know. I mean, like, it's obviously, we don't know where they'll be settled. We don't know, in terms of their involvement back in when they chose to go back, with their. I believe my understanding was that they accompanied their husbands to go and fight Some of them, yeah.
With ISIS. So I don't know in terms of what community they belong to here, other than obviously. Somewhere in Western Sydney, southwest Sydney. And like I said, in Fowler, we've got a large proportion that are of those families who escaped the ISIS state, and those who, and not just the families here, the Australian men and women who went and fought, during that time, as you can recall. So can you imagine the families of those Australian personnel as well? The whole situation would have kind of been very discomforting and concerning for them.
Yeah, we all know it's a very difficult situation, but we can all understand why you and those communities in your area will want to know more and deserve to know more. Let us know, Di, if you do hear anything back from the government by way of a briefing.
Absolutely, Chris, I will do.
Di Lee there, the independent member for Fowler in the southwestern suburbs of Sydney.